All right, is this thing on? You know, I just came back from the gym. I took a nice little dookie, took a nice hot shower, stretched a little bit, drank some water, went to work. This is my third take doing this, so I better get it right this time. But all right, enough of this. Welcome to Subeg's Garden. This is going to be episode 1. I have a lot of things that I want to talk about here today, mainly 3 things. But before I talk about those 3 things, I do have an intro segment, and I want to answer a couple questions before I even begin. So the first question that I want to answer is why I'm doing this. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to find like-minded individuals, people that are kind of like me, that are into the same things as I am. Because I feel like as we've kind of went into this digital age, it's been harder and harder to find like real tangible people that are kind of like me and are into the same things as I am. And as you guys listen to this, you guys will understand that I'm into a lot of things. So that's the answer as to why I'm doing this. And also another answer is this show, it's not going to really be too structured. Each week, I'll probably change the structure and I'll keep on iterating and adapting it, hopefully to find like a sweet spot where I feel comfortable and I'm in a specific pocket. But yeah, so in these first few episodes of the show that I'm gonna put out, it's probably not gonna be perfect. Nobody is perfect, but if you look at me, I'm the least perfect person in the world. So you guys will probably hear a lot of ums and stuttering and all that. So if you guys do, please just bear with me. I am new to this. I'm a newbie, so it's not going to be perfect. I'm not a professional at all. I'm really just learning as I go. But so those are my answers to those questions. But the real introduction segment I wanted to talk about Ethos, Logos, and Pathos and what they kind of mean to me and try to define them for you guys if you guys don't understand what they are. But I'll start with ethos. So I have written here, ethos is appealing to good and bad. My view that it's similar to ethics. They're not the same, but they're similar. Pathos is appealing to emotion. It's the words and thoughts that you can feel. And then logos is appealing to logic. So it's using the logical side of the brain that asks the question why. And I feel like everybody embodies all these 3 ideas, but they can all weigh differently in each person. They are derived from Greek, so they don't really have direct translations, but they embody a whole group of each of these concepts or words embodies a group of thought instead of just one thing. So I wanted to say that if you hear how people speak, or if you hear how I speak, you can probably put pathos, ethos, and logos to my words and see which one I'm trying to appeal to more in the specific in that certain sentence or in that certain train of thought. If I look at myself, doing a little bit of self-reflection, I feel like I more operate in the realm of pathos. Growing up, I was kind of raised by women, so of course that kind of means that I'm more in tune with with my emotional side of myself. I didn't really have like a father figure to help raise me, so I don't really have that side as much developed as I do my emotional side. But so I would say I most of the times I speak with emotion, and I kind of keep my heart on my shoulder or my heart on my sleeve. I always kind of say how I feel, and most people can tell how I feel in a given certain stance, in person or even if you're listening to me. Like, it's hard for me to hide my emotions. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce you guys to that idea of ethos, pathos, and logos. The person that really taught me first about this was in high school. Her name is Miss Marulis. So the first shout out of the show is going to be to Miss Marulis. Shout out to you if you're listening, which is probably not, but anyways. But yeah, so just keep this in mind when you guys are listening to me, or when you're listening to your friends, or when you're watching something, when you're playing a video game, watching a movie or TV show, that you can kind of find what they're trying to appeal to, and you can find ethos, pathos, and logos in a lot of media as well. But yeah, so that's the introduction segment of the show. That's not the first segment. The first segment of the show is I wanted to introduce you guys to my love of basketball. But most importantly, I wanted to introduce you guys to the teams that I love, and the team specifically that are my guys, like through thick and thin, no matter what. And I wanted to talk about the Clippers. Damn, I see a fucking bruise on my bicep. I don't know how the hell I got this, but oh well. Anyways, so I wanted this to be more basketball focused in on the Clippers. And I don't want to go too long, because in reality I can talk about the Clippers all day, but I wanted to talk about two specific moments in Clippers history that everyone probably remembers if you're a sports fan. In 2015, the Clippers, we were in the second round of the Western Conference, facing the Rockets. In a series, you have to win 4 games to move on to the next series. We were up 3-1 against the Rockets, so we just have to win one more game to win the series and go to the Western Conference Finals in 2015. And in 2020, the Clippers were playing the Nuggets in the second round. Whole completely different roster. The only thing that kind of carried over from that 2015 season was our coach. His name is Doc Rivers. But still, we were playing the Nuggets in the second round. We go up 3-1, only need to win one more game to win the series. And then all of a sudden, a flip of the switch, and we're losing. And both of the series, we just out of a blink of an eye, we just lose all 3 games and lose the series, go home, with our heads down. And in 2015, our main core was Blake Griffin, CP3, and DeAndre Jordan. We had JJ Redick, Mac Barnes, Jamal Crawford, trash-ass players like Glenn Davis, Spencer Hawes. In 2020, completely different roster. We have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but we have Pat Bev, we have Montrezl Harrell, Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris. And looking at it on paper, I'm literally looking at it on my notes. On paper, the rosters are sound. We got shooters, we got bigs. I forgot to mention Zubac in 2020. We also had him. We got length. We got players that can score. We got players that can defend. On paper, it should just work. It's almost unexplainable how they just straight lose. In 2020, you could say that the main reason why we lost was the bubble. 2015, I don't really have an answer. Like, at this point, CP3 was already known to, choke when it really mattered. And then people start talking about the Clippers curse. When things are going good, it's just bad shit happens. It's, like I said, it's almost unexplainable. But I wouldn't say I'm a fan of the Clippers. I would say those are my guys. And I'm connected to them in a sense. Because through my perspective, if I look at the events of my life, I feel like on paper that things should have worked out. Just like how I feel from the Clippers. We're almost there. We got it in our palms, and then we just let go. If you're looking from the outside, people probably think that the Clippers are unlucky. But in reality, all their losses are within. They beat themselves before they beat the other team. And once you've lost against yourself, how are you going to beat the other team? Just to put a little ribbon and bow on this segment of the Clippers is I'll probably always be connected to them. They're also one of the teams that haven't won a championship. We haven't even made it to the finals. The only time we even got close was in 2021, and we made it to the Western Conference Finals. And we made it to the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi. It was mainly PG and a bunch of our role players kind of all stepping up. And I feel like that is the Clippers spirit. At the end of the day, we can have all the best players in the world, but we gotta be the ones to win, because luck and fate is never gonna be in our favor. I just feel like, and I feel this for myself too, and I'm trying to work on myself in this aspect, is sometimes we just gotta wake up and be great. And I feel like that's the solution. But yeah, that's the first segment. And, just talking about the Clippers and stuff, how I feel about them just on a surface level. And yeah, we're going to move on to the second segment. And in this segment, we're going to be talking more about music. And specifically, we're going to be talking about Kanye. And I don't really have too much to say about Kanye. Well, I actually have a lot to say about Kanye, but I don't really want to go on and on about him just in case some of you guys that are listening don't necessarily like him, which, I understand, because one wrong word and you could rub people the wrong way. And that's just how it is sometimes. But, I don't want to ask you guys to separate the art from the artist, because that's also hard to do. But I just want to talk about his art and his way that he collaborates with other people. I didn't come in listening to Kanye from day one. In 2004, he dropped College Dropout. That year, I was 4 years old, so I wasn't gonna even remember or listen to it. But I did listen to, or let me start by saying this. My first album that I listened to by Kanye was 808s and Heartbreak. And that came out in 2008. And I don't think I listened to it in 2008, because at that time I would have been 8 years old. I think I listened to it in maybe 2009 or 10. Because around that time I was just listening to whatever my sister was putting on. So it was a lot of like 80s, 90s rock, even 70s like rock, grunge. It was whatever she listened to, Nirvana and all that shit. She also introduced me to Kanye, so shout out to my sister if she's listening. And I feel like when I listen to other people's opinions on 808s and Heartbreaks, at that time, it was probably more divisive. But I feel like that album specifically led to a lot of people trying to find their sound from that. Like if you listen to a lot of Drake's early discography, or if you listen to like some Travis Scott and some IDK and stuff like that, like you could tell like Kanye's tendrils are in these artists, whether they like it or not. In Drake's case, he don't like Kanye at all, but I feel like even he can't deny that Kanye played a role in how he makes music and stuff like that, and the type of music that he makes. So if I were to say what my favorite album is off of Kanye's whole discography, because I think he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So he has 13 albums. 3 of them are collab albums. The rest are his solo albums. So he got 10 solo albums. Of course, he has features and stuff. And he got the 3 collab albums. And out of all 10 of his solo albums, I would say that 808s and Heartbreaks is my favorite one. But that's what's crazy about Kanye, is that on any given day, you can probably say any of these albums are his best album. And I feel like what makes music classic and timeless is that it doesn't matter what day it came out or what year it came out. It makes it timeless and classic is if you can go back to it and listen to it and it's still enjoyable. I feel like Kanye puts a lot of himself in his music, starting even with 808s, Heartbreaks, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like, in reality, those albums are him and who he is and who he was at the time. In 2008, I don't know too much about Kanye, but I know like in 2008 he had broken up with Amber Heard and all that shit. So, that's what Heartless is about. It's about her. And even in his music, you can feel it. But on top of, putting a lot of himself in his music, I feel like he also emboldens the artists that he works with, and he makes them better. Just like a good point guard would, or like a good small forward, or a good player in general in basketball is how can you make everyone around you better, not just yourself. And I feel like Kanye has kind of done that to a T as well. If you look at, so he started doing his Sunday service stuff in 2019. And if you go back and you look at some of those original Sunday service videos, if they're still out there, you can see that, he's having fun, and he's also enjoying letting other people have the spotlight. And I feel like that's also something that's really commendable about him. You might think of all the shit that he said, but look at his actions that he's done, and look at how many artists he's emboldened to, create music. And not only that, but like push them to create good music and push them maybe out of their comfort zone. Instead of removing the spotlights on someone, he puts the spotlight on them and he shines it even brighter. And he's like, here, you be great. It's time for you to be great instead of me. And I feel like if you go back to the first Sunday service, or one of the first ones that he's put out, or that he did, you could see like he got this revolving door of artists coming in and out and kind of joining in and like fading away. And even he does that. He joins in, he fades away. And I feel like that's just something beautiful. You can't teach that. And you can't really force that. You just got to have that within you to make other people around you good and better. But yeah, so that's my second segment. Just want to talk about Kanye for a little bit. And as an outro to this segment, I wanted to kind of, I don't want to address it because he's his own person, but I kind of wanted to tell you guys how I feel about his shit that he said and the dumb shit that he said. And like I said, I'm not explaining it for him and I'm not making an excuse for him, but I feel like when he speaks, he doesn't really think when he speaks. Like his thoughts are going at 100% and like 100 miles per minute in his brain. and he's just kind of throwing them out there as they're coming, and he's not like sitting with his thoughts and letting them marinate in his mind, and then telling the world like concisely. And he's not being concise with his thoughts, so he's kind of saying too much, so then people pick and choose what they want to hear out of all of his words, and then they hate him for it. And that's just how it is. But he even says he loves the attention he gets, so it's kind of like it's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. But yeah, so that's what I have to say about Kanye. He's a great artist, but I feel like out of the record booth, out of the studio, he's kind of tarnished his legacy in a way. And I feel like that sucks, because you can go back to any of his albums and you can find something good about them. All right, so that's the second segment of the show about Kanye. To wrap it up and give you guys my third and last segment of the show, I just kind of wanted to talk about video games real quick. And out of all the things that I love in the world, I would say I love video games the most. But without all the things, let me get to this later. But this third segment I want to talk about is video games. And I don't really have too many notes written about video games, so it's gonna be more like me shooting from the hip, as they would say. Shout out to Colin and Maddie, shooting from the hip, pop pop. Anyway, now I'm fucking playing around and shit. I should have more fun with this instead of just rushing through what I have to speak about and stuff like that. But this is the first episode, so I do want to be a little bit more concise with my thoughts, and just kind of give you guys an overall impression of who I am. But yeah, so anyways, I wanted to kind of speak about the language of video games and how kind of hard it is to get your foot through the door. Because I feel like video games get hated on the most out of all the forms of media. It is starting to become more accepted in people's groups. More people are starting to play video games nowadays, but I still feel like it's very hated on, especially as a form of media. For people that aren't in video games or into playing video games, I feel like it's hard for them to justify the time to play it. But in reality, it has taken a lot of time to really learn the language of games. I don't remember when I started playing games, but I remember one of my first games I ever played was Pokemon on the GBA. It was probably like I think it was Fire Red. But I might have been like 4 or 5 at the time, maybe younger, maybe older. But even then, you gotta really learn the language of the game. Pokemon specifically, I haven't been into it that much, but you walk in the tall grass and that's where you fight. That's something that you gotta kind of learn yourself. And you gotta learn that you have to go to the Pokemon trainer or whatever, that fucking house shit, to heal your Pokemon. Like you gotta learn by just playing the game and listen to the NPCs and how they talk to you and the directions that they give you. That's a whole language onto itself. Even even jargon that I'm throwing out, like NPCs, is something that you gotta learn. Like, it doesn't just come naturally. And I feel like if you're outside looking in, you're thinking about it and it's just like, damn, look at all this shit that's so pointless and it's a waste of time. But I wanted to say that that's a very jaded way to look at video games, is just to say that they are a waste of time. If you're asking me, I don't think that they're a waste of time, because like I said earlier, if I look at the events of my life, one of the constants in my life were video games. and that solace that it gives me, and that joy that it brings. And I feel like you can't put a currency, or you can't put a specific value on joy. Different people, different things bring different people joy. But for me specifically, I know that video games bring me joy, and seeing these worlds and the characters and the gameplay and how much love and passion that these developers put into it for all of us just to sit on our couches and or on our desks to enjoy it. Like that's love to me. But it is a whole like language that you have to learn. There's whole different genres that you won't find in movies or music. There's a whole lot of like technical and gameplay jargon that you have to learn, and each game has different sets of languages that you have to learn. It's not just sets of words. I wouldn't say language, because I would say games as a whole is like a whole different language. But sets of words and ideas that you have to learn, like you have to learn about FOV and POV and inputs and icons and cutscenes, in-engine footage versus CGI versus real time. And then as for genres, there's so many genres. And in reality, if there's something that you dream or think about that you want to play, the thoughts or what am I trying to say? If you look in your brain, if you dream about a specific world that you want to be in, thoughts are that there is a game out there for you to play. Because these worlds are dreamt of by humans. But to maybe keep this segment a little short too, just to keep it short and concise, to the point. If you want to get into games, you really have to sit down and trust yourself to learn it. Because at the end of the day, it's you that's holding the controller. And if you're someone that does play games and you do face with the same stuff that I even do, where people will come to me and tell me that I'm wasting my time or that is giving nothing back to me. And if you're in that camp, what I can say is that if something is bringing you joy, like true joy, or that sense of immersion, because that's what brings me joy is when I'm immersed in something. Regardless if it's a movie, TV show, sport, or what I'm doing, if I'm going to the gym, anything like that. Like, I love being immersed in something that's not reality, I guess. Because if you think about reality, it's really boring. We all have jobs. We all got cars that we put in gas. We all eat the same shit, same meals. We cook for ourselves, or we go out and spend our hard-earned money on something. It's this like revolving cycle that gets so monotonous and boring, and like even just thinking about it doesn't bring me joy. But thinking about a video game that I'm gonna play, like right now I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 and a plethora of other shit, but more specifically Final Fantasy 16. Thinking about it, like I can't wait to just have a few hours where I'm not bothered and where I'm truly immersed in it and just living in that world and seeing that story play out. But at the end of the day, you gotta put joy first. And if something brings you joy, you can't deny the value of that, because time is the most important like currency out there, but joy is just as important. And if I'm spending my time being happy, then that's the most important thing. And at that point, you're winning. That's so that's the end of the video game segment. Looking at it, I'm actually keeping this within a pretty good time frame. 31 minutes. It's not bad. That's not bad. Probably gonna have to cut out some things and edit some things and stuff like that, so it might be a little shorter. But yeah, so of course there's a lot of more things that I want to talk about. I'm already, putting my thoughts down on my notes and stuff like that of other topics that I want to talk about, and I already got so much stuff. I want to talk about the games that I'm playing. I want to talk about the industry, the video game industry. I want to talk about more NBA and stuff like that. But I just had to get this first one in the bag so you guys have a little introduction to me. I'm not really good at intros or outros. I kind of just exist. So like I said, bear with me, guys. I want to thank you guys for listening to this. This is, like I said in the beginning, my first episode, as all you guys can tell probably. And whatever number of you guys that are listening to this, I really truly appreciate you guys giving me your time. Without the things that I loved, I wouldn't be here. And I just really want to put an exclamation on that sentence, because that's the truth. And once you've lost joy, you've lost, and that's the truth as well. Life is hard. We don't have to spend all this time and effort and energy into hating one another, because in reality it does require more effort to hate than it does to love. I was talking about Kanye earlier, but another artist that I really love is Kendrick Lamar, and he has an album called To Pimp a Butterfly, and in the last song of the album, it's called Mortal Man. And I really, especially if you're younger, I want you guys to really listen to Pimp a Butterfly. But if not, you can just skip to Mortal Man, and really hear what Kendrick has to say about life and his perspective on things. And I remember listening to that in 2015 when it came out. This time I would be 15 years old. Get into the last song of the album, and you hear the poem that he says, or you hear the poem that he speaks. And then you hear some bars and some rapping and stuff like that. But then Kendrick shifts to a made-up interview where they have the footage and the audio kind of spliced into making it seem like it's Kendrick interviewing Tupac. I just want to emphasize Kendrick's words. And the main thing that I got from that is that, if we respect each other, then we're unified. And I think that's the most important thing. Is if we're unified, then no one can beat us. And yeah, that goes with everything. If you put respect into one another and you really put love into each other, then at that point we can't lose. But yeah, I got so much stuff that I want to talk about. Enough of this fucking sad drama shit. I was your host today, the Avatar, otherwise known as Subeg. Avatar Subeg. You guys can follow me on social if you guys like to. I'll be posting this in multiple different places, hopefully. So if you would like to give me a like or throw me a comment or rate the first episode, you're well in your range to do that. Go ahead. Give me all your scrutiny or love or hate, whatever. I'll take it all as criticism. And thank you guys for listening. Avatar out.